The ship called Horizon moved slowly through the darkness of space. It was the year 2247, and humanity was about to take its first real step into the galaxy. Inside the ship, a young man named Kim Do-won stood near a window and watched the stars pass by. Do-won was 32 years old. He worked as a junior diplomat, which meant he helped the important people talk to other important people. He was not famous or powerful. He was just a man who was very good at learning new languages and staying calm when things got difficult. But he had one problem that made his job hard. He could not lie. Not because of some magic or rule. He simply did not know how to twist his words the way other diplomats did. The ship was heading to a place called Valora Prime. It was a giant space station where 12 different alien species met to discuss important matters. Together they formed something called the Galactic Concord. Humanity wanted to join this group. If they succeeded, Earth would have friends among the stars. If they failed, humanity would remain alone and weak. Ambassador Yoon Hana was the leader of the human team. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She had spent 30 years learning how to speak without really saying anything. Politics was her life. She looked at Do-won sometimes, like he was a bomb that might explode at any moment. "Remember," she told the team as the station came into view, "we are here to listen, smile, and agree. We do not argue. We do not make jokes. We do not say anything that might be taken the wrong way. The aliens already think we are violent and stupid. We must prove them wrong." Do-won nodded with everyone else. He understood the mission. He would keep his mouth shut and let the professionals handle things. Valora Prime was beautiful. The station was made of white metal and blue crystal. It floated in space like a flower made of light. Ships from different worlds came and went. Do-won saw vessels shaped like insects, others shaped like teardrops, and some that seemed to be alive. When the human team stepped onto the station, they were met by representatives from several species. Most of them looked at the humans with cold eyes. Some did not look at them at all. It was clear that humanity was not welcome here. But one figure stood apart from the rest. She was tall, very tall, almost 7 feet. Her skin was silver and seemed to glow softly, like moonlight was trapped inside her body. She had 4 eyes, all of them a deep violet color. Her hair was not really hair at all. It was made of thin crystals that caught the light and scattered it into tiny rainbows. She wore a long robe of dark blue, and she moved like water flowing downhill. Her name was Velithera. She was the high emissary of the Sylvari Dominion. The Sylvari were an ancient species, older than most civilizations in the galaxy. They could read minds. They could feel lies. And they never, ever spoke anything but the truth. Do-won could not stop staring at her. He had seen pictures of aliens before. He had studied them. But nothing had prepared him for this. She was not just strange. She was stunning. His heart beat faster, and he quickly looked away, embarrassed by his own reaction. The welcome ceremony was held in a great hall filled with floating lights. Speeches were made. Promises were offered. Ambassador Yoon spoke beautifully, her words smooth and careful. The other species listened, but their faces showed nothing. Then came the formal greeting. Each human diplomat had to bow to each alien representative. It was a simple gesture, but it had many rules. Bow to deep, and you showed weakness. Bow to shallow, and you showed disrespect. And never, under any circumstances, look directly into the eyes of a Sylvari. Do-won knew this. He had studied it 100 times. But when he stood before Velithera, something went wrong. Maybe it was her beauty. Maybe it was the pressure. Maybe it was just bad luck. But as he bowed, his eyes lifted on their own and met hers. Time seemed to stop. Her 4 violet eyes locked onto his 2 brown ones. He felt something brush against his mind, light as a feather. Her expression did not change. But something flickered in those alien eyes. Do-won quickly looked down, his face burning with shame. The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur. When it was over, Ambassador Yoon grabbed his arm and pulled him into a side room. Her face was pale with anger. "Do you have any idea what you just did?" she asked, her voice low and dangerous. I'm sorry, Dewan said. I didn't mean to. It just happened. Just happened? You looked into the eyes of a Sylvari High Emissary. That is one of the greatest insults in their culture. You basically told her that you consider yourself her equal, or worse, her superior. Dewan felt sick. What do we do? I don't know, Yoon said. I need to speak with the other ambassadors. Maybe we can apologize. Maybe we can explain that you are new and foolish. Maybe we can still save this mission. She left him alone in the room. Dewan sat down on a cold metal bench and put his head in his hands. He had ruined everything. One moment of stupidity and humanity's future was in danger. An hour passed, then another. Finally, a young alien assistant came to find him. The assistant was small and green with too many arms. The High Emissary wishes to speak with you, the assistant said. Alone. Dewan's blood turned to ice. With me? Why? I do not know. I only carry the message. Will you come? There was no real choice. Refusing would make things worse. Dewan followed the assistant through long corridors until they reached a door made of pure crystal. The assistant bowed and left. Dewan took a deep breath and stepped inside. The room was dark and quiet. Belithara stood near a window, her silver skin glowing in the starlight. She did not turn when he entered. Close the door, she said. Her voice was like music and thunder mixed together. He obeyed. For a long moment she said nothing. Dewan waited, his heart pounding. Finally she turned to face him. Those 4 violet eyes studied him like he was an interesting insect. Your species lies as easily as breathing, she said. I have met many humans today. All of them smiled and said pretty words, but underneath they were full of fear and deception. I could feel it. Like oil on my skin. Dewan said nothing. What could he say? But you, she continued, taking a step closer, you are different. When you looked at me, I felt no lies. Only truth. Pure and simple. It was surprising. She stopped directly in front of him. This close, she was overwhelming. Her scent was like rain on flowers. Her presence pressed against his mind. So I will give you a chance that I have given no other human, she said. Speak honestly to me. Tell me what you truly think. Not what your ambassador wants you to say. Not what you think I want to hear. The truth. Only the truth. She leaned closer, her 4 eyes burning into his. Speak honestly, human. What do you truly think of me? Dewan stood frozen. The question hung in the air between them like a living thing. Belithara waited her, her violet eyes fixed on his face. He could feel her mind touching his, gentle but searching. Looking for any sign of dishonesty, he tried to think of something safe to say. Something diplomatic. Something that would not cause trouble. The High Emissary is very respected among the Concord, he began. The Sylvari are known for their wisdom and stop. Her voice cut through his words like a blade. She shook her head slowly, and her crystal hair made soft chiming sounds. I can feel you trying to hide, she said. Your words say one thing, but your heart says another. Do you think I cannot tell the difference? I have been reading minds since before your grandfather was born. She stepped even closer. Dewan had to tilt his head back to look at her face. I did not ask you here for pretty speeches, she continued. I asked for truth. Your species is famous for its lies. I want to know if even one of you can be honest when it matters. Dewan felt sweat forming on his forehead. His career was over. His mission was failed. He might as well be honest, because he was going to be sent home in shame anyway. Fine, he said. You want the truth? Here it is. He took a breath and let the words come. Terrify me. All of you. The Sylvari, I mean. You look at humans like we are insects crawling on your floor. You read our minds and judge our every thought. You've already decided that we are primitive and violent, and you are just waiting for us to prove you right. Belithara did not move. Her expression remained empty. And you personally? Dewan continued, his voice growing stronger. You are cold. You are proud. You looked at our delegation today like we were dirt on your shoes. You have not given us a fair chance? Not really. You made up your mind before we even arrived. Silence filled the room. Dewan knew he had just ended his career, probably caused a war. But he could not stop now. The words were pouring out of him like water from a broken dam. "But you know what else is true?" he said. "You are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen, human or alien. It does not matter. When I looked at you in that ceremony, I forgot how to breathe. I forgot where I was. I forgot everything except your face." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "And I hate that," he admitted. "I hate that I find you beautiful. Because I know what you must think of me. A primitive human with primitive feelings. You probably find the whole idea disgusting, that an insect like me would dare to find you attractive." He finally ran out of words. The truth was out. All of it. He waited for her anger, for her to call the guards, for his life to end in whatever way Sylvari ended the lives of people who insulted them, but Delithara did something unexpected. She laughed. The sound was unlike anything Dewan had ever heard. It was like wind chimes in a storm, like thunder rolling across a summer sky, like bells ringing in a distant temple. It was not a cruel laugh. It was a genuine surprise. 300 years, she said, when her laughter faded. For 300 years, I have served as an emissary. I have spoken with kings and generals, scientists and artists. I have met beings from every corner of this galaxy. She sat down on a floating crystal chair and looked at him with new eyes. And in all that time, she continued, "Not one person has ever been truly honest with me. They all fear my gift. They all try to hide their thoughts behind walls of politeness. They speak empty words and pray I cannot see the truth beneath." She gestured for him to sit. Another chair floated toward him, and he sat down carefully. "But you," she said, "you did not even try to hide. I felt your fear, yes, but I also felt your honesty. When you called me cold, you meant it. When you called me beautiful, you meant that too." Dewan did not know what to say. Was he not in trouble? "Your species fascinates me," Velithara admitted. "You are so young, so wild. You fight and lie and destroy. But you also love and create and dream. You are full of contradictions. My people have always found this confusing." She leaned forward slightly. "I cannot lie, Kim Dewan. It is not possible for me. So I will tell you something true. Your words touched me. Not because they were flattering, because they were real. In a galaxy full of empty words, real is very rare." Dewan felt the weight on his chest begin to lift. "So you are not angry? Angry?" She seemed to consider the word. "No. I am interested. Your people claim to value truth, but every human I have met covers their words in pretty disguises. You are the first to speak without a mask." She stood and walked to the window. The stars beyond were bright and endless. "The Sylvari are the key to your admission into the Concord," she said. "Without our support, humanity will remain outside, isolated, alone." "I know," Dewan said quietly. "I have not yet made my decision. The other species see only your violence, your wars, your history of destruction." She turned to look at him. "But history is not destiny. What matters is what you are now. What you could become, and what do you see?" Dewan asked. "I see a species full of fear," she answered, "but also full of hope. I see beings who make terrible mistakes but also show great kindness. I see contradictions and confusion and chaos." She paused. "I see a man who, when given the chance to lie, chose instead to tell the truth, even when the truth was dangerous, even when it could cost him everything." Dewan felt warmth spread through his chest. Not hope, not yet, but something like it. "I will give your species a fair assessment," Velithora said. "Not because of your ambassadors' speeches, not because of your delegation's gifts, because of you. Because you proved that humans can be honest when it matters." "Thank you," Dewan said. It was not enough, but it was all he had. "Do not thank me yet," she replied. "I said fair. I did not say favorable. Your people have much to prove, but at least now you have a chance to prove it." She walked to the door and opened it. The meeting was over. "We will speak again, Kim Do-won," she said as he passed. "I find your honesty refreshing." He bowed, careful not to meet her eyes this time. But just before he stepped out, she spoke again. "One more thing. You called me beautiful." He froze. "You're right," she said simply. "Among my people, I am considered quite plain. But I have never cared much for such things." A tiny smile touched her lips. Until now. The door closed behind him. Do-won stood in the corridor, his mind spinning. He had just had the strangest conversation of his life. And somehow, against all odds, he had not ruined everything. When he returned to the human quarters, Ambassador Yoon was waiting. She had clearly been preparing for disaster. But when she saw his face, she stopped. "What happened?" she demanded. "I think," Do-won said slowly, "I think I might have helped." Before Yoon could respond, a message arrived from the Sylvari delegation. It was addressed to the entire Concord. The message was simple. Humanity deserves further study. The Sylvari Dominion is not opposed to their admission. The High Emissary volunteers to conduct the assessment personally. Yoon stared at the message. Then she stared at Do-won. "What did you say to her?" she whispered. Do-won smiled, still hardly believing it himself. "The truth," he answered. "I just told her the truth." The weeks that followed were unlike anything Do-won had experienced. Velithara had promised to study humanity, and she took that promise seriously. She attended every human meeting. She watched every negotiation. She asked endless questions about human culture, history, and behavior. But more than anything, she spent time with Do-won. At first, Ambassador Yoon was suspicious. She assigned a security officer named Park Ji-an to watch over Do-won at all times. Gi-an was a strong woman with short black hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had served in the military for 15 years before joining the diplomatic service. She trusted aliens about as much as she trusted a hungry wolf. "I do not like this," Gi-an said one morning as they walked to meet Velithara. "She is using you for something. I can feel it." Maybe, Do-won admitted. "But what choice do we have? She is our best chance of joining the Concord." "Just be careful," Gi-an warned. "Beautiful things are often dangerous things." Velithara was waiting in a garden filled with plants from a dozen worlds. She wore a white robe today, and her crystal hair was arranged in complicated patterns. When she saw Do-won, something in her expression softened. "Good morning," she said. "I have more questions." This had become their routine. She would ask about human things, and he would try to explain. Today, she wanted to know about love. Why do humans form permanent bonds with only one partner? She asked as they walked among the alien flowers. "It seems inefficient. Among my people, children are raised by the community. Personal attachment is discouraged. Love is not about efficiency," Do-won said. "It is about connection. When you love someone, they become part of you. Their happiness is your happiness. Their pain is your pain." "That sounds like weakness," Velithara observed. "Maybe it is," Do-won agreed. "But it is also strength. People do incredible things for love. They become braver, kinder, better. Love makes us more than we were alone." Velithara was quiet for a moment, processing this. "And you?" she asked. "Have you loved?" "Once," Do-won said. "A long time ago." It did not end well. "What happened?" "She chose someone else. Someone richer, more successful. I was not enough for her." Velithara stopped walking. "That was cruel. It was human," Do-won said with a sad smile. "We are not always kind to each other." They continued their walk in silence. Do-won could feel her mind touching his, not reading his thoughts, but simply feeling his emotions. He had grown used to it. In some strange way, it was comforting to be with someone who could truly understand what he felt. Days turned into weeks. Velithara began to experience human culture more directly. Do-won brought her human food, and she was amazed by the variety of flavors. He played human music for her, and she sat perfectly still for hours, analyzing every note. He told her human stories, and she asked 100 questions about why humans found certain things funny or sad. "Your species is irrational," she said one evening after watching a human comedy show. You laugh at pain. You cry at happiness. You say one thing and mean another. It should be frustrating, but instead what? Duan asked. Instead, I find it charming, she admitted, like watching children discover the world for the first time. Everything is new. Everything is possible. But not everyone was charmed by humanity. A species called the Krovanax had opposed human admission from the beginning. They were large, powerful beings with gray skin and red eyes. They saw humans as a threat, a violent young species that would upset the balance of power in the galaxy. One night, disaster struck. An explosion rocked the lower levels of the station. 3 Krovanax diplomats were injured. When security forces arrived, they found evidence pointing to the human delegation. Weapons with human markings. DNA traces from human officers. Gian was arrested. Ambassador Yoon gathered the human team in their quarters. Her face was pale and frightened. The evidence is overwhelming, she said. They found her fingerprints on the explosive device. They found human weapons at the scene. The Krovanax are calling for her execution. It is a trap, Duan said immediately. Gian would never do this. She is a soldier. She follows orders. She would never risk the mission. I believe you, Yoon said. But belief is not proof. The Concord laws are clear. If we cannot prove her innocence, she will be executed. And humanity will be expelled from consideration forever. Duan found Velithera in her meditation chamber. She was already waiting for him, her expression troubled. I know why you have come, she said, before he could speak. You want me to read the minds of everyone involved? To find the truth, yes, Duan said. You can prove Gian is innocent. You can show everyone that this was a setup. I can, Velithera agreed. But doing so would violate Concord law. Telepathic evidence is not admissible in formal proceedings. If I use my gift without permission, I will be removed from my position, perhaps imprisoned. But Gian is innocent, Duan pleaded. She is going to die for something she did not do. Velithera was silent. Her 4 eyes studied his face. Why do you care so much? She asked. She is just one person. Your species has billions. Why risk everything for one soldier? Because she is one of us, Duan said, and we do not leave our people behind, not ever. It does not matter if she is important or ordinary. She is human. She is ours, and we will fight for her. Something changed in Velithera's expression. Something softened and hardened at the same time. This is what I could never understand about your species, she said quietly. You are so often selfish and cruel. But when it matters, you become something else entirely. You become fierce, loyal, unstoppable. She stood and walked toward him. I will help you, she said. Not because it is wise, not because it is safe, but because it is right. The next day, Velithera called an emergency session of the Concord. She stood before the assembled representatives and made a declaration that shocked everyone. I have known the humans for several weeks now, she said. I have studied them. I have walked among them. And I tell you now, on my honor as a Sylvari, that they are not capable of this attack. Their soldier is innocent. The Krovanax representative stood, his red eyes blazing. You have no proof, only feelings. Then let us find proof, Velithera replied. I demand a formal truth scan of all parties involved. Every species. Every individual. If the humans are guilty, it will be shown. If they are innocent, that will be shown too. A truth scan was a rare procedure. It required the cooperation of every telepath in the Concord. It was painful and invasive. No one requested it lightly. The Krovanax representative hesitated. His eyes flickered with something that might have been fear. This is unnecessary, he said. The evidence is clear, and you should have nothing to hide, Velithera said. Unless, of course, the evidence is not as clear as it appears. Silence filled the chamber. Every eye was on the Krovanax. Finally, the representative spoke. We withdraw our charges. The room erupted. Questions flew from every direction. Why would they withdraw if the evidence was solid? What were they hiding? Within hours, the truth came out. The Kravonics had manufactured the evidence. They had planted human DNA and weapons. They had staged the attack to destroy humanity's chances. Gian was released that night. Doan found Velithara standing on an observation deck looking at the stars. He walked to her side and stood in silence. "You saved her," he finally said. "You risked everything." "I did," she agreed. "And I would do it again." She turned to look at him, and for the first time he saw emotion in her eyes. Not the cool detachment of a diplomat. Something warmer. Something almost human. "I have never acted so irrationally," she admitted. "My people would say I have been corrupted, that human emotions have infected me." "And what would you say?" Doan asked. She smiled. It was small and uncertain, but it was real. "I would say you are a dangerous influence." "Kim Doan," he smiled back. "That," he said, "is the most human thing you have ever said." The Concord was preparing to vote on humanity's admission. Thanks to Velithara's support, the humans had a real chance. But not everyone was happy about this. The Krovanacs had been humiliated. Their lies had been exposed in front of the entire galaxy. They wanted revenge. They found a way to get it. They filed a formal complaint against Velithara. The charge was simple, but devastating. They claimed she had been emotionally compromised by her contact with humans. They said she could no longer be trusted to make fair judgments. They demanded her immediate removal from her position. Ambassador Yoon delivered the news to Doan in private. "The Sylvari High Council has ordered her home," Yoon said. "They want to examine her, to determine if her mind has been affected by human influence." Doan felt cold. What happens if they find something? She will be stripped of her title. She will never be allowed to leave Sylvari space again. In their culture, emotional attachment is considered a kind of disease. They may try to cure her. Cure her of what? Doan demanded. "Of caring. Of feeling. Of you," Yoon said quietly. "Rumors are spreading. People are saying that she has developed feelings for a human. For you specifically." Doan sat down heavily. He had known, somewhere in his heart, that something had been growing between them. But he had never allowed himself to name it. Now, it might destroy her. "I need to see her," he said. "She has asked for you," Yoon replied. "But be careful. Everything you say and do is being watched. Her enemies are looking for proof of her corruption." Found Velithara in her chambers. She was sitting in the dark, her silver skin barely glowing. When he entered, she did not look up. "You should not be here," she said. "Your presence only supports their accusations." "I do not care about their accusations," Doan said. He sat down across from her. "I care about you." She finally raised her eyes to meet his. For the first time since he had known her, she looked afraid. "I do not understand what is happening to me," she admitted. "My mind feels different. When I try to meditate, I cannot find peace. When I try to read others, I keep feeling your emotions instead, even when you are not present." She pressed a hand to her chest. "There is something here," she said. "Something new. Something that was not there before. When I think of leaving this station, of never seeing you again, this thing in my chest becomes painful, like a wound that will not heal." Doan moved closer to her. He wanted to touch her, to comfort her, but he did not know if that was allowed. "It is called love," he said gently, "or something like it. It is what happens when someone becomes important to you, when their existence matters as much as your own." Velithara shook her head. "My people do not have a word for this. We are taught that such feelings are primitive, weaknesses to be overcome. But this does not feel like weakness. It feels like strength. Like I am more myself when I am with you than when I am alone." "That is exactly what it feels like," Doan said. She looked at him with her 4 violet eyes. "I cannot name it in my language. But I can say what I know to be true. I do not wish to be elsewhere when I am with you. I wish to hear you speak. I wish to know your thoughts. When you are in danger, I feel pain. When you are happy, I feel joy." She paused. "Is this what humans call 'do not say it'?" Doan interrupted. His voice was rough. "If you say it, you cannot take it back." and once it is spoken, everything will change. The Velithra was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood and walked toward him until they were close enough to touch. "I do not wish to take it back," she said. "I am tired of hiding. I am tired of pretending. If speaking truth is what humans value, then I will speak truth now." She took his hand. Her skin was cool and smooth, but he could feel energy flowing through it, a connection that was more than physical. "I love you, Kim Do-won," she said, "in every way that I understand love, and in many ways that I am still learning. You have changed me, and I do not regret it." Do-won felt tears forming in his eyes. He had never expected this. He had never even dared to hope for it. "I love you too," he whispered. Across species, across worlds, across everything that should make this impossible, they stood together in the darkness, two beings from different stars, connected by something that neither of them fully understood, but their moment of peace was short. The next day, as Velithra were prepared to address the Concord one final time before her departure, an assassin struck. It happened so fast. A flash of light from the crowd. A weapon designed to kill telepaths by destroying their mental shields. It was aimed directly at Velithra's heart. Do-won did not think. He did not calculate. He simply moved. He threw himself in front of her just as the weapon fired. The blast hit him in the chest and threw him backward. He crashed to the floor, his body smoking, his heart barely beating. Chaos erupted. Guards seized the assassin. Medics rushed forward. Velithra fell to her knees beside Do-won's broken body. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." She pressed her hands to his chest, trying to hold his life inside him. His eyes were closed. His breathing was shallow. She could feel his mind flickering like a candle in a storm. "You cannot die," she said. "I forbid it. Do you hear me? I forbid it." But human bodies were fragile. The blast had damaged his heart, his lungs, his spine. The medics shook their heads. There was little they could do. Then something strange happened. As the medics worked, Do-won's body began to fight back. His heart, which should have stopped, kept beating. His lungs, which should have failed, kept drawing breath. His cells began to repair themselves at a rate that shocked the alien doctors. "This is impossible," one medic said. "No species heals this quickly." But humans were not like other species. They were stubborn. They were irrational. They refused to die when they were supposed to. Do-won lived. It took 3 days before he opened his eyes. When he did, the first thing he saw was Velithra's face. She had not left his side. She had not eaten or slept. She had simply sat there, holding his hand, waiting. "You fool," she said. Her voice was thick with emotion. "You absolute fool. What were you thinking?" "I was thinking," Do-won said weakly, "that I did not want you to die, so you decided to die instead. It seemed like a good idea at the time." She laughed through her tears, and yes, she was crying. Silver tears that sparkled like starlight. Something that Sylvari were not supposed to be able to do. "You have broken me completely," she said. "My people say I am corrupted. They say I have become more human than Sylvari. They are probably right. Is that so bad?" Do-won asked. She leaned down and pressed her forehead to his. It was a gesture of intimacy in her culture, a sharing of minds, a promise of connection. "No," she whispered. "It is not bad at all." News of what happened spread across the Concord. The human who had thrown himself in front of an assassin's blast to save an alien. The man who had refused to die when his body should have failed. When the Concord finally voted, it was not even close. Humanity was admitted unanimously. And as the celebrations began, Velithra stood before the assembled species and made a declaration that would echo through history. "This human risked his life for mine," she said. He did not hesitate. He did not calculate the odds. He simply acted. He loved, and so he sacrificed. If this is what humanity is, beings who love so fiercely that they would die for a stranger, then they are not the primitives we thought they were. She looked at Do-won, who was watching from a medical chair. "They are extraordinary," she said. and I will stand with them, now and always. 6 months had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Concord. Everything had changed. Kim Dewan was no longer a junior diplomat. He had been promoted to full ambassador, one of the youngest in human history. His honesty, which had once been seen as a flaw, was now considered his greatest strength. Aliens from across the galaxy came to speak with him because they knew he would tell them the truth. Valithera had officially resigned from the Silvari Dominion. Her own people considered her a traitor, an exile, someone who had lost her way, but she did not care. She had found something more valuable than her position. She had found a home. She now served as the human delegation's cultural liaison. It was a made-up title, really. An excuse for her to stay. But no one complained. She had proven her loyalty when she risked everything to help Jian. And she proved it again every day that she stood at Dewan's side. They had become legends without meaning to. The human who told the truth. The alien who learned to feel. Stories about them spread across space stations and starships. Children on distant worlds grew up hearing about the diplomat who saved an emissary with honesty and the emissary, who chose love over duty. It was a good story. But stories cannot protect you from what is coming. The warning came on a quiet morning. A ship appeared at the edge of known space, barely alive, its hull covered in strange marks. The pilot was found dead at the controls, his face frozen in terror. But before he died, he had recorded a message. "They are coming," the message said. "The Void Chorus. They have awakened. Nothing can stop them. Run. Run while you still can." The Galactic Concord called an emergency meeting. Representatives from all 12 species gathered to discuss the threat. Ambassador Yoon attended for humanity, with Dewan at her side. Velithora stood behind them, her face serious, the oldest species present. The Korath explained what the Void Chorus was. "They are machines," the Korath representative said, "ancient beyond measure. They were built by a civilization that died 1,000,000 years ago. Their purpose is simple. They destroy all intelligent life. They have done it before. They will do it again." Fear filled the chamber. Species that had been rivals for centuries now looked at each other with new eyes. They were no longer competitors. They were prey. "What can we do?" someone asked. "Nothing," the Korath replied. "No one has ever survived an encounter with the Void Chorus. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be defeated. They are the end of all things." The chamber fell into chaos. Species began arguing. Some wanted to run. Some wanted to hide. Some wanted to surrender and hope for mercy. The alliance that humanity had worked so hard to join was falling apart before their eyes. Dewan stood. The room slowly went quiet. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone wanted to hear what he would say. "I understand your fear," he began. "I feel it too. But I will tell you what humanity has learned over thousands of years of war and struggle. Running does not work. Hiding does not work. The only thing that has ever worked is standing together and fighting." "Fighting is hopeless," someone shouted. "The Void Chorus has destroyed civilizations far older than any of ours," maybe Dewan admitted. But those civilizations faced the void alone. They were scattered, divided. They fell one by one because they could not stand as one. He looked around the room at faces from a dozen worlds. "We are not alone," he continued. "There are 12 species in this room. 12 civilizations with different strengths and different skills. The Silvari can read minds and predict enemy movements. The Korath have technology beyond anything we have seen. The Krovenaks have warriors who fear nothing. And humanity." He paused. "Humanity has something that cannot be measured. We have hope. We have stubbornness. We have the absolute refusal to die quietly. We have fought wars against ourselves for all of history, and somehow we always survived. We always got back up." Velithera stepped forward. Her presence silenced the last whispers. "I have studied humans for months," she said. "At first I thought they were primitive, emotional, irrational, but I was wrong. Their emotions are not weaknesses. They are weapons." She walked to the center of the chamber. The Void Chorus operates on logic, she continued. It calculates. It predicts. It destroys threats with cold efficiency. But it cannot calculate hope. It cannot predict love. It cannot understand beings who would die for strangers or fight battles they know they cannot win. She turned to face the assembly. These are human things, and I have learned that they are not foolish. They are the greatest strengths in the universe. They are what will let us survive.
Silence.
Then, slowly, the Korath representative stood. The humans speak with fire, he said. But fire alone cannot defeat the void. What do you propose, Ambassador? Doan stepped forward again. A unified fleet, he said, led not by the oldest species or the strongest species, but by a council of equals. Every species contributes what it can. Every species fights as one. No one stands alone. No one falls alone. Who would lead this council? The Krovanax asked, his red eyes suspicious. All of us, Doan said. Together. No single species above any other. That is the human way. That is the way we will win. The vote was not immediate. There were arguments, doubts, fears. But one by one, species began to agree. The Sylvari voted yes. Then the Korath, then even the Krovanax, who owed humanity nothing but had seen what humans could do when they truly tried. When the final vote was counted, it was unanimous. The Galactic Concord would stand together, and humanity would help lead them. The war that followed was terrible. Ships were destroyed. Planets were burned. Millions died. The Void Chorus was everything the legends had. Promised, cold, relentless, unstoppable. But it was not prepared for what it faced. It was not prepared for. Sylvari telepaths who link their minds to predict every attack. It was not prepared for Korath technology that adapted faster than it could destroy. It was not prepared for Krovanax warriors who charged into battle singing songs of glory. And it was not prepared for humans. Humans. Who flew damaged ships into enemy formations to buy time for others. Humans who held defensive lines long after they should have fallen. Humans who looked at impossible odds and said, "We will try anyway." In the final battle, at the heart of the Void Chorus fleet, a human pilot named Lee Soman flew her ship directly into the enemy's central processor. She knew she would not survive. She did it anyway. Her sacrifice created an opening. The Allied fleet poured through, and when the smoke cleared, the Void Chorus was silent. They had won. The galaxy celebrated for weeks. Songs were written. Statues were built. The names of the fallen were carved into monuments that would stand for 1,000 years. But for Doan and Velithera, the celebration was quieter. They stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt horizon, looking out at the stars. The same deck where they had shared so many conversations. The same view that had watched them fall in love. Do you remember what you said when we first met? Velithera asked. Her voice was soft, peaceful. That you were terrifying and beautiful? Doan replied. Yes, she smiled. I have thought about it often. It was the first true thing anyone had ever said to me. Before you, I had forgotten what honesty felt like. Doan took her hand. Her silver skin was warm now. Another change. Another sign of how much she had grown. Then let me say another true thing, he said. I love you. Across species, across stars. Across everything. I loved you before the war. I loved you during the war. And I will love you for whatever comes after. Velitha returned to face him. Her four violet eyes shone with a light that was almost human. I know, she said. I have always known. Your heart has no shadows. No secrets. From the first moment I touched your mind, I knew exactly what you felt. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead to his. That gesture of intimacy. That promise of connection. It's connection, she whispered. In every language the universe has ever spoken. In every way that any being has ever loved another, you are my home now, my people, my everything. They stood there together, two beings from different worlds, As the stars burned bright around them, the galaxy was safe. Humanity had found its place. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, the universe seemed to shine a little brighter.